today we have someone who is a superstar. He's from what I call the concrete Catalonia of Southeast London. He's a real grafter. And he's achieved everything you really want to achieve in the game at a young age. I mean, he's only a Champions League winner, Premier League winner, Europe under-17 winner. Like, he's done it all. But this is someone I have a lot of respect for. It's funny enough because growing up in South London, you heard a lot about him, how he was so humble and how he worked really hard to get to where he wants to be. And as you know, this is someone I like to call the Cop and Coman, which is a bit controversial because the Everton link, but we let it go. Also call him the Catford Castacota. Also call him the Charlton Cannavaro. We have the one and only Liverpool and England international Joe Gomez. Please give it up for him. Entrance is a bit mad. Still coming like some WWE man come around the corner and that. What are you telling me, bro? How are you?
I'm good, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us. It's, as I told you, it's, about speaking about you, your career, and we're just going to kick it. But for me, there's only one place to start. And like I said, I grew up in South, heard about you growing up and everything, you playing football, you went to school in Sydenham, right? Yeah. The one thing I wanted to ask you is, why are you so hench on Bolo? From Dave, that's just some big guy. Like, have you always been like that, like just a tough guy? Or
Nah, man. I still don't think I'm that guy.
No, the bicep's gonna. When you see the lighting on this, you're gonna see it's gonna look nice still.
Nah, I think back in the day, like you said, going to school in Forest Hill, me and a couple of my mates, we just got into going into the gym. That was all we did. Like most parents have trouble getting their kids out of bed in the morning, but me and my friends, some days we'd be there for 7:45, like when the gates opening. It just became a hobby, like going to the gym. I just found it productive, and then as time went on, I found I got a bit of grief from the manager. There's one time he told me, "Yeah, you need to get rid of the beach muscles and so on." So it's a real balancing act, and obviously being injured at the minute, sometimes all you want to do is be productive, and it's not always efficient to just lift weights, and you got to try and be so fine-tuned to be the best version of you, I suppose, and it's a real balancing act for me, I'd say, yeah.
No, 100%. Speaking of the injury, it's so good to see you, looking happy and everything. How is that recovery going, and when do you reckon we see you back in it?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's been a tough one, obviously. I've had my fair few now. This has probably been the most challenging one for sure, just because of the nature of how things happened. The timing of it was obviously frustrating for me personally. But I'm in a good place. I'd hope in pre-season I'm ready to go. It's been like mentally really challenging in the sense that having to rebuild my body like this many times, it sort of loses its. I think some players sometimes when it happens, we see it as a project, as a chance to come back better, stronger. And I'd had that many setbacks and warnings. I was already so grateful to be fit, to be playing. I didn't really need the reminder at the time. But yeah, it's been I see it as another, everything happens for a reason. And it's been a real journey just to look at the game again. And things like watching the Euros and so on has been difficult, but hopefully come pre-season I'm in a good place and we can go again next season. It'd be nice to have a fresh start and go again.
100%. We'll get into a lot of the themes you mentioned there because I think it is quite important, especially with an injury as well. There's this perception that people see the physical injury and think, oh, okay, you know what, that 9 months, but they don't think about the mental, and especially when this is your livelihood, you've dedicated most of your teenage years to graft this moment. They don't think about the mental towards it. But we'll go into that. But you mentioned journey, and everyone's journey starts, from somewhere. There's a destination it starts from. Yours is Southeast London. Tell me about your earliest memories of kicking ball in Southeast London.
Yeah, for me, it was probably like 4 or 5 years old. One of my mates was I think my dad just wanted to get me out of the house, to be honest. Like, one of my mates was his mum was taking him to it's called the local power league. I don't know. There's a few around London. Yeah, one day I just went and I enjoyed it, man. It was just, obviously at that point, 4 or 5, you're just going to kick ball and have fun. And yeah, I just enjoyed it every Saturday from there on in. It was like a constant thing for me. It was my hobby. And then, yeah, that Pits, like Power League, we call it Pits.
Pits.
Yeah.
It's not Pits anymore. But
yeah, I know. That's a shame. But yeah, for us, like, it was part of our culture. I think as kids, it was our go-to. In the summer, we pay £1. And that's the sad bit, I think. Nowadays, that to have that opportunity to just go and play football, I feel like having that chance to express yourself and just get off the street is what we lack nowadays. But for us at that point in time, yeah, it was my everything. Every summer, I'd be there all day long, come home, do it again the next day. So for me, my earliest memory was Pits, and then obviously as I grew up, I joined the team, and our team was based there. So yeah, for me, Pits was my earliest memory.
It's funny because you mentioned like playing for like the whole summer and just playing, and it makes me laugh because back in the day, when you're playing football and everything, like you wouldn't even want to go home because your parents would be like, if you come, you're not going back indoors, like you better stay outside. So like that resonates with probably everyone here. But one thing, I mentioned South East London. I know you played for 10&B, and obviously another South East London legend played for 10&B as well. Ian Wright played for them. Like when you were playing for these sort of clubs and getting into the game and learning more, who were you trying to emulate in the playground or when you were playing?
For me, like early on, it was probably Thierry Henry, because I didn't have any like desire to play centre back. Like that was boring at that point. Like I don't want to be a defender. No one wanted to be, I think. But so when
certain men were on the
well, yeah, maybe that shows your desire, but not for me. As I got older, then like I realised like this is my goal is to be a centre back. I want to be a defender, and then that's when like Rio Ferdinand for me was like, yeah, he was my idol at that point for sure. I think being from South London, like having the style and the way he played was something I aspired to be for sure, and that continued. Like still to this day, he's someone that I look up to, I try and emulate, and yeah, I'd say those two are probably the main figures that I looked up to and aspired to be like.
It's not a bad duo to have. I mean, two greats of the game, and obviously everyone knows that a lot of your education and foundation was in Charlton, but it could have gone differently, right? It may not have been, especially when you're from South. I mean, people going like West London, Kickball. With Charlton, how did that come about with you, and how close were you not to signing with Charlton?
Yeah, it was at the time I remember like obviously your dad, your parent. I was only 9 or 10, so your parents, they have the final say and they dictate what you do. But Millwall was an option, and I ended up going to like Charlton Development Centre. So it wasn't even like straight to the academy. They had a development centre in Deptford, so I was there for a while. Just enjoying myself. I obviously didn't think, I want to try and I need to get into the academy. It wasn't that. It wasn't a thing for me. I was just enjoying playing. Then the opportunity came to go to the academy. It was a 6-week trial. Obviously at that point I'm invested, like having seen what I could do and where I could be, who I could be amongst. Obviously I want to be there. I remember at the end of the 6-week trial, the coach pulling me and just saying, nothing too specific, just like, yeah, I wasn't good enough, really. I think I was a bit underdeveloped, I was a bit gangly, and at that point, yeah, I feel like I had the attitude, and they were like, that's always been the fundamental for me, just wanting to learn, wanting to listen. That's probably what got me that far, but I think technically I wasn't at the level that those boys were at that point. So yeah, they just said, go away, and hopefully you can come back one day, and I was distraught. Like, for me, that was it. I don't want to, like, have anything to do with them anymore. My mum was really protective. Like, I remember going back in the car park afterwards and crying. And I know her being like, yeah, that's it. I'm keeping away from there. I don't want him to, like, experience this. Which, understandably so. Like, I have a child now, and it's like, I would never want to see my child in that state, that young.
100%.
Yeah. But, so then, for me, that was like, oh, that's it. That's the end. And then I went back to 10&B for a while, and then they called me back again. I don't know, probably a few months later, and second time it worked out. So, yeah, what was meant to be will be.
For real, what was meant to be, and you've achieved so much since then. But through that journey, what I always find interesting is playing football at a young age. You play it because you love the game, but there comes a moment, especially when you're in those sort of environments, you know, you might be training, you might see a few pros. When did that moment for you that, you know what, I really want to do this, I want to become professional, come? Because you went from development to then, you know, getting signed, to then playing under 18s, what, 13? Like, that's a rapid sort of growth. What moment did you kind of realize, you know what, I can do this?
Yeah, I think once I started to get a gauge of, like, obviously having like just got signed, I knew like I've got a lot of work to do. I didn't. It was the start of my journey, but I think once I started getting to the point where like I had the opportunity to play up and like play with the older lads, like when I was 13, 14, I was like, what, I must have a chance maybe.
I must be alright.
No, yeah, not in that sense. But still, it was just like embracing the challenge. I enjoyed like almost feeling like I had nothing to lose, because if someone's like physically stronger than me and so on, it is what it is. I've still got a long way to go. I think like really, I remember having a conversation with my mum when I was picking my GCSEs, and I was like, oh, this is not me. Like academically, I was alright. But I wasn't an A-star student. But like, I had the fun. I enjoyed school, but I knew past this point, past GCSEs, this isn't really what I want to do. I love football. At that point, I think we was doing day release like one day a week, and it was like, I just enjoy like on that Tuesday going to football and coming home. That just feels like the dream. Not having to go to school and sit in class all day. It was like, this is really what I want to do. So I think I'd say around that point when I was picking my GCSEs, it was like, I know I need to give this last 2 years of school my all, but I really want to play football. That's all I want to do. So yeah. What's
it like having that sort of conversation? Because I'm thinking even back to like my journey when, you know, your parents know you're passionate about something, but it's not until you start having day release where, you know, you're leaving school at like, what, 11 o'clock and you're going to play football, or, you know, you might have to go for a tournament like in Blackpool, and they're like, oh, you know what, this is actually a really serious thing. What was it like having your conversation with your mum saying potentially that, you know what, you want to commit everything to this? And how important for you, especially because you've got a young one now, how important is family to you in that sort of journey?
Yeah, I think my parents were everything to me in terms of how supporting they were. And yeah, at that point, obviously, I remember my dad being really like wanting to keep the balance, saying like, listen, and thankfully so, like, you've got to like still do your homework, make sure you read, do your extras. But because obviously at that point, missing a day of school is compromising my schoolwork, and that was a challenge. Like a lot of parents might not have been as understanding of what my passion was, and might have said, no, you can't do that. And maybe that would have been detrimental to my football. But thankfully, my parents were really supportive on both fronts. And yeah, I mean, at that point, it was difficult to try and balance school. And like, I remember I was missing a whole day, and at that point, GCSE level, I'm missing whole subject, like a whole portion of a subject that's coming up, and it's like it's difficult, but they were really supportive. And throughout my whole journey, my family's been massive for me, and I'd like to have that same supportive mentality with my little one, like you say. And yeah, I believe it's everything to have that background and that backbone supporting you through your journey.
100%, because football, especially as a footballer, you live and breathe it. It is a turbulent journey. Like, there's highs and lows, and a lot of the time you can feel like you're alone. So having that support bubble around you is so important. Speaking of highs and lows, one of the most important moments of any pro's career is getting that contract, because it's like it's a sign that it was all worth it, but it's just the beginning. Yeah. Can you recall when you got that phone call and how getting your pro contract came about?
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, it's a moment you dream of as a child, and it is a sense of like accomplishment, but on the flip side, you're very wary. Like, anyway, I was that it's so early, and the journey in football is strange. Like, everyone's journey is different, and things can change within one game or one moment. But I remember, yeah, luckily, like having the opportunity to play up meant I was quite early in getting one, which was for me was a blessing. And yeah, I was thankful. Obviously, Charlton was where I signed my first pro, and yeah, it was everything to me. I mean, I still like didn't feel like I'm a professional footballer. Far from. Even making my debut and playing like for a certain amount of time, I still felt that way. But just having that reassurance that they trusted in me, they believed in me enough to want to give me a contract was like, yeah, it was a real humbling experience. And one I didn't take for granted, because I knew a lot of my friends like would emphasize to me like, you're lucky to be in that position, because at that point like my friends are going off to college and so on, and like I said, like having the experience to go to football every day was like, I know I'm blessed to do so. So it was definitely an experience that gave me a lot of confidence, but I knew one that was just very early in my journey.
Why did it feel like you were pro? 'Cause especially your journey. I mean, you got into the team, you made your debut, did well in your debut, and then the season that came from that was a very memorable one. You won Young Player of the Year. At what moment did you kind of realize, okay, you know what, maybe I'm a professional footballer now? If it wasn't when you signed the contract.
Yeah, for me it was a long while. Like even when I moved up to Liverpool, I still felt I've still got a lot to prove. Like a lot of people get moves, and it doesn't mean that your path is written out. Like there's a lot of work to do. I still didn't have that sense of, yeah, I'm a professional footballer. I don't think I ever had a specific moment where I felt like, yeah, I've made it. It was never ever my mentality, and I just think some of my friends would banter me and be like, oh, you're being silly, like. But generally, like I didn't ever want to have that comfort of feeling like I can relax, or because that's never the case. And I think all the elite players, and I'm lucky to have been around a fair few, and like all their mentalities are the same, like constant drive to be better and improve. And yeah, I think that mentality was crucial.
So with you then, you mentioned you made the big move after like a crazy season. I'm guessing you moved up north by yourself as well, very young. You didn't spend any time in digs, did you? Because you're in South.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's it like for, a young boy from South who's playing football and knows I'm decent, but I don't feel like a pro yet, to suddenly have Liverpool come in, to then go up to Liverpool by yourself? What was that like for you?
A lot of Iceland meals. I couldn't cook like at all, and that was a big thing. Like people didn't realize the club were very helpful, but like all I knew was my mum and dad's. So I'd never paid like a proper bill. I've never like looked after my washing. None of that. All of that was a big move for me. And although football is like the training, you're there for a few hours, but you have a lot of day left. So like at that point, our training structure is a bit different now. But at that point, it was like train in the morning, we'd be home by like 1:30, 2. I never had that sort of alone time ever. I was always around my friends, like always like even nights before games, until a certain time they'd be with me, we'd just be chilling in my mum and dad's. Like I had that home comfort. Then to go up there alone at 18 was like, it was daunting. Amongst players that were like, for me were my idols, and I was just this young kid. I wasn't well known or anything. So it was a daunting experience, but one that made me grow up really quickly, for sure. And I'm thankful it happened when it did, because it definitely helped shape me.
100%. And listen, you got your chance to make your debut, and what a debut it was. You got the assist as well, right? But how did that all come about? Because a lot of people, when they speak about their debuts, they talk about, I found out in the morning, or I knew a week before. How did your situation come about?
Yeah, I still struggle to claim that assist. That was Phil, he hit it from like 30 yards, so I can't claim that. But I think it was the night before. In pre-season, I got a gauge. Like I went to Liverpool thinking, obviously I'm going to give it my all in pre-season. But I remember meeting Brendan the summer before, and there was a good chance that I knew I could go on loan. At the end of the day, I was going to a big club. I was leaving Charlton, and it was like, I'm well aware that the chances are I'm young, I could end up going on loan. And then in pre-season, I ended up playing fullback a fair bit. And as we got close to the first game of the season, I started to get an idea, like when we was doing shape and so on, maybe I could play. So yeah, he announced the team like formally the day before, and it was daunting. Like I've never been as nervous in my life. I don't think I've been as nervous since that moment. Just tense, and in a way nerves are a good thing, but that was probably too far, like the way I was nervous. But it was a special moment for me. The Premier League was like something I aspired to my whole life, and yeah, it's a day I remember forever for sure.
Yeah, I think the stat is like 0.012 of players actually make it professional. So like when you step onto that field, again, you said that you never ever feel that moment when you're pro. Like, when does it hit you that you've actually accomplished so much? I mean, we can talk about the titles and everything as well, but even getting to the Premier League, did that hit you as you got into the pitch, or was it when you maybe spoke to family afterwards and they're like, Joe, you done it, you know, you're there now?
Yeah, I don't think until after the game I could like really embrace the moment. Before the game, like I say, it was just a blur. I was just nervous. But after the game, it was like, wow, I actually made my debut. We won, and it was a real nice experience to share that moment with my family. And yeah, but then again, that's football. It comes and it goes, and it's on to the next one really quickly. So yeah, it was a special moment and one that I appreciated, and I knew like, wow, this is something special that I know is not something I can take for granted. But then it was on to the next one really quickly.
100%. And even in that journey early on, you did have stuff you had to deal with, because you've had those highs and then you had the injury quite soon after. And is that your first major injury, that one?
Yeah. I'd never had. I thought I was Iron Man before that.
Like, the gym, innit?
Yeah, I honestly, as a kid, you just think I'm so robust. There's so many details that go into like your body as a player now, but like things like pre-activation and preparing your body was so far from the forefront of my mind. But then I got like a reality check early on. I think I'd only played like 6 or 7 games, and it was the first international break of the year. And then I had my first setback, which was really difficult to deal with. Like I say, like the variable of like being alone up there and never having gone through anything as big as that. I didn't even know what an ACL was. I didn't understand what the injury meant or what it meant I was going to go through. I just knew like something's bad has happened and I'm going to have to get surgery, sort of thing.
And then in that time, because I know you mentioned before that as a footballer, like you finished training, you had spare time and everything. With this, it's almost like something you love is taken away from you. Almost like, you know, when you got in trouble when you're younger and your mum said, you know, you can't play football. How did you kind of overcome that? What were you doing with the spare time? How were you sort of getting yourself ready to go again?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. I'd say that was the biggest thing, and I definitely spent a lot of time overthinking in that period. I had nothing else to do. At that point, I would drag out my days at training just because, like, my missus, who I'm with, my missus now was at uni, and she'd be up on the weekends, but Monday to Friday, I'd be like twiddling my thumbs. So I wouldn't want to go home to the apartment and just do nothing and think and waste time. So I'd just drag out my day. Like normal days, we finish at 2, I'd be there till 6, like just wasting time because I didn't want to go home and have to just overthink and worry. Because like you say, football was everything. So then to be like at square one where you really can't do anything was difficult for me, and it definitely helped shape me and changed a lot of my perspective towards things at that point. So I'm thankful for what happened, but it was a difficult period for sure.
On the other side, though, you have had some moments which, again, short time in your career, but crazy moments, Champions League, Premier League. When you're in those occasions, like people at home are watching, like nervous, thinking, "Oh my word, like this is massive." What is it for you, you know, living out your dream, being in these high-performing teams and winning these titles? What does that feel as a young footballer?
Yeah, it's everything. I think there's been different occasions, obviously. I think in a way, obviously, like losing the Champions League the year before we won it, it was tough. And I was watching, I was on the sidelines that day, and I was really nervous, and I knew what it meant for the city, for the club, and obviously it had been a minute and since Liverpool had won it. But then to have the next season, which I got injured in again, but got fit for the final and came on, for sure I was probably as nervous as everyone watching. Like, you know what it means for the club's history, and the occasion itself, you can feel it as a player. And there are times when you're on the pitch, you don't take it in, but it was definitely a nerve-wracking moment, and for me, one of the biggest weeks of my life for sure. And yeah, that was a special moment for sure.
And I just find it so crazy again because there's people that, you know, they fight their whole careers to achieve those two massive things. You achieve them so quickly. How do you kind of keep the mental, you know, to keep wanting more? Is that, not that it's difficult, but after you've done that, you're probably thinking potentially, you know what, it's there. How do you keep that hunger going to actually go back again?
I think for me, that's probably where being injured and being away from the game has been a blessing and worked in my favour, in a sense that I know it's not that common to, like, a lot of things have to align to be in a special team with a special manager to win the Champions League, to win the Premier League, and I definitely don't take it for granted. I think constantly you just want to strive to improve yourself. Maybe if I'd had it easier and not had injuries or setbacks, I might have just thought, yeah, this is easy and this is how it's meant to be every year. But I know that's not the case, and I know there's a lot of things that go into that. And like with the Premier League, it's week in, week out consistently. You can't, the level of it now with the Cities and Chelseas and so on, Uniteds, it's like you can't slip up. Every week's a challenge, and you have to constantly strive to keep maintaining a level of performance that can give you a chance to win it. So probably that's why for me the Premier League is the pinnacle, and that's why I think that year was so special for us, because we knew what it meant, and obviously it being the first time was something we knew was so special for the club and for the city.
For you personally, which one felt that bit sweeter, the first Prem or the comeback, you know, from losing the UCL and then winning it? Which one did it for you? On
a personal note, I'd probably say the Premier League, just because I think over such a long period and the club's history, on a personal note, I feel I had a bit more involvement. The Premier League for me, I knew what it meant for the city. It was a shame, obviously, with the nature of things at the minute, that it couldn't be amongst the fans and so on. But the Premier League, for me, felt like a dream come true for sure.
I hear it. Let's talk about your big bro, your centre-back partner, who, you know, typically would probably be sitting here. What's it like having someone that, you know, you play with, that you can actually look up to? And again, in the context of what's going on at the moment, both of you missed the Euros for injury, both of you had big injuries. What's it like having someone like that, so relatable, and having a relationship with?
Yeah, I'm thankful for sure. I think everyone knows Virgil's quality. Like, everyone knows he's arguably the best in the world, best centre-back in the world at the minute, and it's for sure something I know I'm blessed to be amongst, because every day I learn from him in a footballing aspect and a mental side of things too. I think he's got such an elite mentality, and I think that shows on the pitch, his leadership and so on. And yeah, having someone like that on a daily basis is for sure a blessing. And I think his willingness to want to help me as well has been a massive blessing for me. I think it's easy for him to come into the club and just worry about himself. A lot of players being self-centered achieve more, and rightfully so sometimes, but Virg genuinely, I feel like we get on so well because he genuinely wants the best for me, and likewise for him. And obviously being injured at the same time has been difficult, but another blessing in disguise, because we both, obviously me sort of being through his injury in the past and us both having knee injuries, has been like constant, like the go-to. In that first couple of weeks when we both got injured, it was like every day, how's this feeling? It's just a comfort to have someone to speak to, and obviously it was tough luck, but just having that person to call and say, like, the swelling's crazy today, or my knee's so stiff today, it was comforting to have that person there, and I'm thankful for that.
100%. Do you reckon that it's not common in football, but having that real sort of friendship, like you said, that you can call someone and be like, you know, how is the knee today? Do you reckon it's something that needs to be spoken more about in football? Because when you're young playing the game, that's all it is. You're just with your friends. I guess when it becomes a profession, maybe it can become a bit different. Do you think that's a really important thing for football?
Yeah. I think for sure. I think people see like the genuine relationship sometimes in football, and it's just nice to see. I think sometimes we can get caught up in just being professionals, but at the end of the day, we're just human beings, and like, you can drop that barrier. There's no need to have that wall up to not let people in, and it's nice to have that in that environment. And there's a few players like that in our dressing room that we're lucky to be close, and Virg is one of them for sure. That it's not, we don't always just have to talk about football or like the game or training. It's just generic life things, and for sure that's refreshing to have that person there, and he's been a massive help for me.
Throughout your whole career, like we've gone through, you've had some really high highs, you've had some personal low moments, but thinking about all of that, what really sticks out to you as something that, you know, you hold, or a lesson that you've learned?
I'd say it's probably just to try and stay level. I think there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. I think if you get too high with the highs and too low with the lows, it's just, there's more to life at the end of the day than just football. I think we strive to be the best we can be, and that's all you can do. I think sometimes things are out of your hands, and I'm thankful to have learnt this over time, that like you have to take your mind off it at times. For sure, I think it's crucial to keep a level of dedication, and that's all I try and do, be the best that I can be. But it's to learn that sometimes you have to accept the difficult moments, and we all have difficult days aside from football. So it's just to try and stay balanced, and thankfully like having family and so on around makes that a lot easier. But yeah, it's definitely a lesson I've learned over time, because I'd take things, I'd get low and struggle with bad games, bad results. I might make mistakes that concede like a goal to make us lose the game. It's just like trying to stay level in all those moments is something that I try and do now.
That's some powerful stuff, man. Thinking back to that young Joe that was playing in pits, paying £1 for the summer, playing every single day. If you could speak to that Joe, what would you tell him, and why would you say that?
I think it'll just be enjoy it, man. Like, as I say, like probably until GCSE, that's probably when I realised I wanted to do it. But I'd still put myself under a lot of pressure. I think the pressure probably helped at times to just make me stay on it, but just to enjoy the game, enjoy playing football, and I know how fortunate I am to do so. So I think just soaking up every moment for what it is, and not overanalyzing and stressing about losing a game or making a mistake. It was all part of the journey, and yeah, going forward, I think that'll be my mindset for sure, to enjoy the game and give it my all, but embrace the fact that I'm blessed to be doing so.
That's beautiful, man. Everyone, please give it up for Joe Gomez. Really appreciate it, man. That was some beautiful stuff. I'm not going to let you go yet. I'm going to have some questions from the audience, but before we even get there, I've seen your recovery ones. I know you're quick, so we're going to do some quick fire questions. Yeah. You good? You steady?
Let's go.
Sick. Cool. All right, first one, centre back or right back?
Centre back all day.
Swear?
All day.
You didn't like the right back stint?
I enjoyed it. It definitely helped me, but yeah, centre back's where I want to be, and yeah, for sure.
Sick. Most influential player in your career?
I'd have to say Virg, in the sense of what I've learnt from him as a person, as a teammate. Obviously, there's been players that I've learnt lessons from who've given me a lesson on the pitch, like opponents-wise. But yeah, in terms of long-term, I'd say Virg.
We'll get into that one. Own goal or 10th minute red card?
Own goal. You can still revive it, but a 10th minute red card, like you're setting the team up for failure. So.
Hey, zone or man marking?
I personally, we do a mixture at the club, but I think man marking, at the end of the day, your responsibility is clear. You've just got to not let your opponent beat you to the ball, and yeah, I'd probably say man marking.
Best pair of Adidas boots?
See, back in the day, the Copa, like the classic Copa, I loved them.
You're a proper centre back, isn't
it? Yeah. Nah, I'm not, no. But like the classic World Cups, those are the first Adidas boots I had. But now, yeah, the Copa, like for me, the ones I wear, for sure.
Sick. If you had to give the aux cable to Trent or Van Dijk, who's it going to?
Oh, yeah, Virg. Nah. Yeah, probably Virg. I don't know what Trent's a bit discreet with his music, so I don't know what he could pull out, so I'll probably say Virg.
Sick. Another Premier League title or Champions League?
Oh, I'd probably the Premier League. Probably the Premier League. Just like I said, like it's over a sustained season to do that. I think is pretty special.
Sweet, sweet. We're gonna go back to the one you tried to do around best player you've played against.
Wow. I think on the whole, it have to be Messi. I think I've had tougher days against individuals, but to be in his presence and like to see how he plays and how he manipulates the ball was like, I could see why he's who he is, for sure.
Who's the individual that gave you, who's the individual that like gave you like, who's the, like really gave it to you and you had to go in and, who are Liverpool with? Nivion, what, spray extra Nivion? It's a long day, I've been sweating. Who actually really like, if there's anyone that's ever like given you a game, who would that person be?
There's been a few, man. There's been a few. In different ways as well. I get it in training a lot with Mo and Sadio. Like, that's a given. That's just how they are. Sane he's a problem, for sure. He's a special player, and there's a couple strikers we're playing up front. I think Harry Kane is unbelievable. Like, give him a yard and he's going to punish you. So there's a few. I could keep going, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
To be fair, you've pocketed your fair share of them as well. So we've got to give yourself some credit, but give yourself a pat on the back. Best player you've played with?
Oh. I think all round, like day-to-day, seeing him, I think Coutinho probably.
Baller.
Yeah, I think he was
special.
Yeah, unbelievable. Probably.
Sick. And who is the best player in the world to you?
Ooh. At this minute, like,
yeah, this minute.
That's a tough one, man. I think at the minute, De Bruyne's probably, for me, just all round unbelievable. I think so there's a few players with injuries and so on at the minute, but De Bruyne probably at the minute, yeah.
Listen, that's quality, man. Joe, thank you so much.